Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So Deontay Wilder, a lot of different outlets are reporting that he's actually going to return to the ring later this year. He actually came out and said he couldn't just basically walk away from the sport, which the way I took it is he plans on returning to the ring. So a lot of different outlets are running with the story, saying that he's shutting down talks of retirement. Now, one thing we do know is, even I thought that his boxing career was over. I thought it was over. I mean, Deontay Wilder's sitting on, must be close to $100 million. So why come back to a sport where everything that you wanted to accomplish, you were able to accomplish that and much more? But Deontay Wilder, like he says, he's a man of the people, and there are a lot of people who want to see him back in the ring for obvious reasons. Deontay Wilder is lights, camera, and action. And the one quality he has more than probably, I'd say, any other boxer. Well, I would say most boxers, because there's some other guys who have this too. His heart, man. You know, Deontay Wilder really is one of those fighters who fights with his heart, and he really showed it in those fights with Tyson Fury. Now, a lot of people are going to probably come and put comments at the bottom talking about Tyson Fury is his daddy, Tyson Fury beat him, Deontay Wilder is this and that, and you know what? Okay, Tyson Fury did beat him. Can't argue that. Tyson Fury, the better fighter, probably can't argue that, okay? They had 3 fights, and we know what happened. I'm not here getting into all the crap about the second fight. Bottom line is Tyson Fury won, okay? And he outboxed him in the first fight, ended up being a draw. But right now, Deontay Wilder, a lot of people want to see him back. And the consensus is, if he returns to the ring, he beats everyone. Okay, now, I personally think he does too. But I think he has to be very careful with some of these fighters. And I've said this in other videos, and I'll say it now. When you see these guys who are giants, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Helenius, AJ, even a Joe Joyce, Flip Hergovic, when these guys are 6'5" to 6'9", okay? Even the Klitschko's, they don't fight anymore, but when you're that tall and you're fighting guys who are 6 feet, 6'1", 6'4", 6'3", it's a little bit difficult for those smaller fighters to pose a true threat unless you allow them to close the distance. And when you have that kind of reach advantage, heightened reach advantage over your opponent, it makes it a little easier to get your shots off, frustrate them, and then drop the big shot, especially in Deontay Wilder's situation. Super fast, super accurate. With that jab and that right hand comes like a missile. But when Deontay Wilder and the AJs, the Furies, the Klitschko's, and these other tall fighters, when they fight someone that's about the same stature, same height, same reach, similar dimensions, the fight's a little bit different because now they see themselves getting hit with shots they normally can just lean back and avoid. Where now they lean back, they're still within reach of that opponent. And since I'm talking about Deontay Wilder, that happened when he fought Washington. It showed up when he fought Brazil. Say what you want in that first round. Brazil touched him. But then when he fought Tyson Fury, it really showed up. And the same thing for Tyson Fury. He was getting hit with some shots by Deontay Wilder that Fury probably is normally able to avoid because of Deontay Wilder's dimension. And the reason I bring up Klitschko is because Corey Saunders, when he and Vladimir fought, Corey Saunders is a big boy too. So he was able to get to Vladimir and hit him with shots that Vladimir normally doesn't get hit with. And even when Corey Saunders fought Vitaly, although Vitaly beat him, Saunders had some success against Vitaly. But Vitaly is just a beast, man. He's 6'8", something like that. So, again, we talk about dimensions. So with Deontay Wilder coming back and looking to set his foot inside the ring, since the trilogy with Tyson. Now that we know he's going to fight again, there's a couple opponents that people are talking about he should look at fighting. Now, I was thinking of the Frank Sanchez as being a top opponent for him, Joe Joyce, Parker, but those aren't the names that are really being thrown around for a return opponent for Deontay Wilder. Now, Deontay Wilder is hell-bent on getting that WBC strap back. Not sure he's going to get an opportunity to get that strap back until probably after April next year when Tyson Fury fights the winner of AJ or Usyk. Because we know what's going to happen, then there's going to be a rematch. But Deontay Wilder can put himself back. I think he's the mandatory right now. But Suleiman's going to take care of Deontay Wilder. But right now, Deontay Wilder wants to continue his journey. And one of the names that's being thrown out there is Andy Ruiz Jr. And, Andy Ruiz is looking to get back in title contention. He's supposed to be facing Luis Ortiz in August. But if he gets through King Kong, they're saying that'll be a really good fight. Clash of former heavyweight champions between Deontay Wilder and Ruiz. I myself personally think Luis Ortiz clips Ruiz. And I hope he does. I like Luis Ortiz. But Andy Ruiz is just, I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to keep losing weight? Is he going to put the weight back on? Because to be honest with you, fat Andy Ruiz beats a lot of people. That's why he beat AJ. That Andy Ruiz was an animal. This guy who's losing weight and trying to, get to 160 pounds, 260 pounds. He needs to come back because this guy, he didn't look good against Chris Arreola. Chris Arreola almost got him out of there. So going forward, Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz, not sure what he's going to do, what his strategy is. His combinations didn't look fluid. He just didn't look like a good fighter. Him being with Eddie Reynoso may not be a good fit. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Eddie Reynoso is a one fighter trainer. That's what I think he is. I think him and Alvarez work good together. It's like that guy who was training Andre Ward, Virgil Hunter. That was Virgil Hunter, right? Him and what's his name, Andre Ward, they just had a relationship. They just had success. But outside of that, he had Barrios. Barrios did all right, but he didn't get him from young. So Virgil Hill's style doesn't suit everybody. He had Amir Khan. It doesn't suit everyone. So going back to Andy Ruiz, I just think he doesn't. I think he's going to lose to Luis Ortiz because he's just not the same guy who throws 1,000 combinations and looks super good. He looks very basic, kind of Canelo-ish, and not in a good way. So him getting in there with Luis Ortiz, I think the Cuban is going to clip him. Next fighter we're talking about, Deontay Wilder possibly fighting, is Derek Chisora. I think within the first 30 seconds, Deontay Wilder clips him, hurts him bad, may send him to the hospital, possibly kill him. He's talked about getting a body on his record. If he fights Derek Chisora, I think he kills Derek Chisora in the ring. I like Derek Chisora. I don't think he should get in there at all. He just needs to go on about his business. We know that Del Boy likes a good gunfight, and Deontay Wilder doesn't mind going out there and slinging guns either. I just think Deontay Wilder carries the bigger weapon, and once he fires, it's lights out for Derek Chisora. But any fight Derek Chisora's in is going to be fan-friendly, firefight, and that's what the showdown between the two would look like. But anyway, what's not to love about Del Boy, but I just don't think he needs to go in there and take that kind of damage at this point in his career. Now, Robert Helenius, all right, this is what I think could be a problem for Deontay Wilder. Now, they've sparred together. They've helped each other out. Helenius knows what Wilder brings to the table, but Wilder knows what Helenius brings to the table, too. Again, you're talking about a giant. Helenius is no small man, and he can fight, and he can take a shot. And Wilder's power is different. But I just would hate to see Deontay Wilder getting there with a guy like Helenius and, struggle with that size, struggle with that reach, struggle with this man pressuring him. I think Deontay Wilder has what it takes to beat him, but I think Helenius is a very tough fight for Deontay Wilder. Just like I think Helenius is a very tough fight for Fury, a very tough fight for AJ, a very tough fight for anyone. The Nordic Nightmare is no joke, but we'll see what Deontay Wilder chooses to do. You still got to favor him, but unless you just don't know boxing, you probably would think that this is going to be a cakewalk for Deontay Wilder. I don't think so. Helenius is a very strong, durable fighter who could create huge problems for Deontay Wilder or anyone else because of his size. Dillian White, that's the fight to make. If you ask me, make the Deontay Wilder-Dillian White fight. That fight is the one to make. You know, these guys have been, this has been really a showdown several years in the making, man. And that would be the perfect and most arguably the most winnable fight for Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, if he chooses to return. But Dillian White became the mandatory challenger for that WBC strap Wilder held back in 2017. Never got his chance to get a shot at that for whatever reason. But when you talk about styles, you just got to see look at what Fury did to Dillian White. Could you imagine what Wilder would do to him? And it won't even be an uppercut. Deontay Wilder sit back on the outside, throw that long jab at him, and then let that right hand go. Now, you got to say Dillian White does have a puncher's chance because he has the big left hook. But at the end of the day, what's the chances of him getting that shot off? But it would be nice with both of them, you know, having lost to Fury, to see them get in the ring because it makes sense to be such heavy hitters and finally settle the score now more than ever. And then, of course, it's Anthony Joshua. That rivalry goes all the way back again, like with Dillian White to 2017. It's still one of the most talked about in the division, despite the fact that these guys never fought. But they could come face to face in the near future, especially if AJ loses, you know, to Usyk. That could be definitely a matchup. AJ wants it. I think Wilder would take it. And that would probably be the biggest fight they can make in the heavyweight division right now. I think that fight, between AJ and Wilder would be bigger than Fury and Usyk if Usyk beats AJ and Usyk goes on to fight Fury for the undisputed distinction. I think Wilder and AJ would be bigger than Usyk and Fury. Seriously. That fight would sell. And that would be a hell of a matchup. And that's one of those fights where, you know, I'm going to side with Wilder, but it's like, it's whoever lands first, man. You know, like, it's bombs away. Whoever gets their shot off first is going to win that fight. And I hope AJ can come with a good strategy, but I'm going to roll with the Tuscaloosa native on that one, man. But depending on who wins that fight, it could be the perfect springboard, you know, to a fight for that undisputed distinction, especially if Fury loses to Usyk. And this is all hypothetical. If Fury was to lose to Usyk and then, you know, Usyk chose to continue fighting and trying to, you know, defend all of those belts. But outside of those fighters, those five fighters, you got the Frank Sanchez. Maybe a good comeback fight for Wilder would be F.A. Jabba. Who else is there at heavyweight for Wilder to fight that he hasn't fought already? You know, the Joe Joys, Parkers, they're not really there where they need to be yet. But Dillian White. Dillian White is the fight to make. I hope they make that fight. That would be another good fight. But I think we all can agree that Deontay Wilder would clip him badly. But anyway, that's the latest and greatest on Wilder. Those are the names being thrown out there on multiple outlets. And I just found it interesting that those are the names that they were mentioning. But when you think about it, it makes sense. Out of all those names I dropped, AJ is a tough fight. Helenius is a tough fight because of their size. Just got to be fair. The easiest fight on there is probably Chisora. Then after that would be Dillian White. Then you got to look at Andy Ruiz. And then after that, I think it's a toss-up between Helenius and AJ. And that's just how I got it broken down. But I still think my boy Deontay Wilder will come out on top. I hope he returns to the ring. I like his energy. He is one of those guys. He is what it is. He is what he is. He doesn't care about what you think. And just like with Adrian Broner, that's why I like those guys. And I like anybody who can just be themselves and not worry about what anyone thinks. Whether you like him or not, you know what you're getting. And even with Paulo Malignaggi, got a big mouth. Think somebody needs to, have a conversation with that guy. But at the end of the day, he is what he is, and I respect that. That being said, y'all like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. I appreciate the support. Please hit that subscribe button, man. And let's keep this going, man. Y'all keep cool, and as always, I'm in the breeze.